What Zelensky wants is a promise from the U.S. that in return for getting these rare earth minerals, the U.S. will pledge to protect Ukraine should Russia invade again. And Trump is saying, no, I'm not going to be a part of that exchange. I just want the rare earth minerals. But that doesn't seem like a deal the president of Ukraine would sign. And yet, Zolan, he's about to arrive in Washington and sign it. So at some point, he decides that even though he's not really getting anything from it, it's still somehow worthwhile. Why?
Well, for one, I mean, a late version of a U.S. proposal did vaguely say that the U.S. would support Ukraine's security. But then Trump, in a cabinet meeting, said essentially that was going to be the responsibility of European nations that are closer to Ukraine. Zelensky's in a really tight spot here. I mean, he knows Ukraine has been relying on a lot of U.S. aid. And, you know, he's now put in a position where, like many other world leaders, he now needs to come to Washington and try to placate Trump, try to, you know, use old-fashioned diplomacy to try and secure any kind of assurance for Ukraine.
Catie, is this the death, like the official death of anything resembling the conventional Republican approach to Russia and containing its territorial aggression and its previous mandate to protect Ukraine?
I mean, look, over the past 7 years I've been up on the Hill, I've written a lot about sort of the two foreign policy wings of the Republican Party, sort of the traditional Mitch McConnell
Protect
interventionist
Ukraine,
right, wing, and sort of the, at the time, ascendant sort of, they call themselves realists, restrainers, people who did not want to send sort of U.S. treasure, U.S. troops abroad. And I think what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, at least when it comes to Republicans in Congress, is that that's not really a battle anymore. And that it's over. The anti-interventionists have won. They occupy positions of power in Republican leadership on the Hill. They occupy positions of power within the Pentagon. And so I think Zelensky knows that, right? He knows that he's not going to get any more aid from Congress. And so he has to make a deal with President Trump.
Well, to that point, if you subscribe to this ascendant, now victorious America First worldview that has now dominated the party under Trump, isn't this quite an achievement? The United States is going to recoup the money it's spent in Ukraine with no commitment to spend much more or to ever put American troops in harm's way in Ukraine in a war that Trump and many Republicans don't think the U.S. has a real interest in.
Yes. I mean, this is, look, in a long line of things that Donald Trump promised during the campaign, and is doing, this is one. He made very clear that he did not support the aid to Ukraine. Trump also looks at all of these engagements through an economic lens. He does not look at them through a foreign policy end the same way, you know, as some kind of a moral exercise. He is looking at it as what is the best deal for the U.S. He sees Ukraine as a tiny country. Russia is obviously not the superpower it once was, but in Trump's mind, it looms much larger from its, you know, stature decades ago. And he sees more business opportunities for the country, as he has said, with Russia than he does with Ukraine.
It's interesting, even when the administration is trying to reassure Ukraine that the United States will be here, they actually point to the fact that, look, if we have an investment in your critical earth minerals, that is, in a form, you know, the best kind of security assurance that you could get because we don't want Russia to take over all of this territory. If we have an agreement with you to continue to financially benefit, you know, from these critical earth minerals, isn't it more likely that we will continue to support your defense of your land, which I think says a lot about Trump.
That's fascinating.
It says a lot about him.
Right. The best way to get America's support is to allow us to have a financial interest in you not being overrun by your larger neighbor. Which in this case, he's just struck.
Well,
that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it's also, look, it undoes decades of post-World War II alliances and how the U.S. should engage with Europe. But Trump has been pretty clear that he didn't believe in that world order or the alliances that were formed under it.